Chocolate isn't the answer. Could you please repeat the question? Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is PODSNACKS Art of the Diet, a monthly podcast that tries to give the answer to my lifelong question, how do I maintain a significant weight loss? I've had the question for maybe over 70 years. I've only had the answer for the last 10. All the episodes can be seen and heard on www.artofthediet.com.
Hello, this is Pat Coakley and episode 170 of podcast Art of the Diet. 170 episodes. Yikes. Anyway, this past month, as you know, I have been struggling to deal with a small weight gain, but it always feels like a large weight gain to me. It was only 3 pounds, but for some reason or other, it always feels like, 15 or 20 pounds. And, I did end up losing that and a little bit more. And I thought to myself, really, I am 10 years into this. And it took me 2 months, really, to come to terms with it. But what is it that I did in the past month that I hadn't tried the month before? And I began thinking, I named this podcast back in 2015, The Art of the Diet, because honestly, for me, it wasn't the science of dieting that helped me. There's only so much food knowledge my brain can absorb. And I'm not one of those people that didn't honestly know what was good food to eat and what wasn't. So the scientific part, although interesting, never really seemed to address the issues for me. So I always felt there was somewhat of an art of it. And what does that mean? And I looked it up at the time that I named it, and it really is very, very relatable to my past month. And the art of something, the art of cooking, the art of fly fishing, all of that means is a skillful plan, a strategy, some tactics, some techniques. So the art of something really isn't something ephemeral or abstract or, loosey-goosey, as they used to say in my generation. It's actually a skillful plan. And you often hear about that book about war called The Art of War by an ancient Chinese author, I think like 5 centuries before BC or 5 years before BC. I mean, it was a long time ago. And so I looked that up this month in anticipation of doing this podcast, because I was either going to focus in on Bill Maher and his remarks about fat people and James Corden's response to it, which was, a brilliant sort of response. And I'll leave the links to those. But I think for this month, I'm going to focus in on the art of war and the art of the diet. I named it for a reason. And 10 years out, it really is the art of war some days. And in the past couple of months, it's really involved tactics, strategies, all of which won me a battle or two, but not the war, which was basically to get back in sync, which I'm now in. So I thought it would be fun to take the podcast through the ancient text, how he made chapters and what his titles were, to see if there was any correspondence to the art of the diet. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know how long this one's going to be. Could be short, could be long. Stay tuned. So the first chapter of The Art of War is titled Laying Plans. And it is basically about the assessment and planning of the challenge. So in my terms, it was, I had to lay some plans about how to lose this 3 pounds. Now this is 3 pounds that I have gained and lost multiple times in 10 years, sometimes less, sometimes more, but the bottom line is I'm arrived back at this point multiple times. What is my plan to deal with it? And on the Wikipedia page for this book, it summarizes the contents of the chapter. Don't you love that? So you don't have to read the whole thing. Anyway, what it basically says, it explores this laying plans, chapter 1 in the Art of the War, that it explores the 5 fundamental factors: the way, the seasons, the terrain, the leadership, and management of what you need to do, and the 7 elements, 7 now, that determine the outcome. By thinking, assessing, and comparing these points, a commander can calculate his chances of victory. And here's what I think is absolutely key to the art of war and the art of the diet. Habitual deviation from these calculations will ensure failure via improper action. And in my case, I'm not sure it fits into the military vocabulary, but habitual deviation from what I know helps me obviously leads to bad outcomes. I know that. It's not a new fact. And it's not that I take increasingly improper actions to ensure my failure. I just don't pay attention. And the lack of attention absolutely ensures that whatever plan I put in place is going to fail. And I am that sort of girl that will say on a Monday at 8 o'clock, okay, 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm not going to have popcorn this week. Just simply not going to do it. It metabolizes into sugar. It may be an acceptable snack. I don't put butter on it and all that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is, it is a trigger. So that's 8 o'clock on a Monday morning. 1 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm popping popcorn. It's like the right hand is just not aware of what the left hand is doing. But there it is, and there's the paradigm, and I think that is also chapter 1. Habitual deviation from whatever plan you put in place is going to ensure failure. And the text in this particular ancient book stresses that war is a very grave matter to the state and must not be commenced without due consideration. And I think this also applies to the art of the diet, because sometimes we sort of unconsciously say, oh yeah, I'm going to take care of this, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm just going to do what I did before. And it's sort of just a little too easy breezy. It's not like we're really paying that much attention. And I think what this text means is that there's a gravity to committing yourself to war. It's not abstract. It's not an intellectual exercise. It has grave consequences. And I think with me, the consequences of having 60 extra pounds that I was carrying around on aging knees and back and etc., this was not going to help me remain independent. It wasn't going to help me be mobile. What was it going to help me with? I couldn't come up with anything. So I think that first chapter of laying plans is, number one, take it seriously. Yeah, 3 pounds is not 60. It's not 20, it's not 30, it's not 15, it's not even 10. But I also know that 3 can very easily become 5, and 5 become 10, and on we go. So when I look at the 3 pounds, I have to really take it seriously, because I'm not a newcomer. I know this is a problem I have. When I'm not very anxious like I was last year, my appetite returns and I have to deal with it. Only times in my life when I don't have to deal with this problem is when anxiety takes root. And fortunately, that's not the case right now. So I actually think this chapter 1, laying plans, has some real parallel. Okay, so now I'm going to do chapter 2. It's called Waging War. So before I go to chapter 2, I just want to tell you 2 things that are my takeaways from chapter 1. And the first one is pay attention. And if you decide that you want to lose 2 pounds, 10 pounds, 60 pounds, 100 pounds, you need to pay attention. And how do I pay attention? Because my attention span is about the life of a mayfly. I put up Post-it notes in my bathroom, little sayings in the kitchen. Sometimes I write down my daily weight as opposed to just letting it be on the digital scale. In other words, some externalization of the reminder of what I'm about. I find that it helps. I've done it. I've used little sayings on my Apple Watch face. Subtly, you see it throughout the day. It's just a simple reminder. So I think the paying attention is key. And I also think that decide how serious you are about it so you don't spend months dithering about the same issue. Because I think the dithering and the spending time starting and stopping and starting and stopping and getting discouraged does not help you. As someone who's maintaining a weight loss, and most of the people who listen to me know exactly what I'm talking about, you really have to treat 3 pounds as somebody maintaining a weight loss as someone who regards 60 pounds or 100 pounds. Yes, there are big differences in the number, but psychologically, it's the same thing. You have to gear up. And if you keep putting on the gear, going to do the exercise, going buying the apples at the store, and then eating cookies, whatever it is, you weaken your sense of yourself and the sense that you can do it. So if you're not ready to do it, don't do it. And you'll know when you're ready. And when you're ready, put up some external reminders or put it on some device that you have that will remind you subtly, or someplace in your house where you cross paths and you go, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so chapter 2. Chapter 2 is the waging war. And it focuses on, I guess, the challenge of it, trying to break down what the challenge of the actual challenge is. And, you know, when I first lost the 60 pounds 10 years ago, that was my challenge, to lose 60 pounds. My challenge this past month was to lose 3. So I had to understand it, but I also had to take it seriously. And that's what I was saying about, be it 3 pounds or 60 pounds. When you have a lifelong issue, as I've had, this is a challenge that for you have to gear up for. You simply just don't have a default position that's a healthy one. You really do have to pay attention. So it's interesting. This is what they say about this second chapter. Explains how to understand the economy of warfare and how success requires winning decisive engagements quickly. Wow. I so totally relate to that, because when I do start, and I start in earnest, I want to see success right away. I can remember when I used to do the Weight Watchers years ago, waiting a week to weigh in, because they suggested that you don't weigh in daily. I don't know whether they still do that or not, but for me, it was a challenge not to have a sense of how I was doing, given what we all know, there's variances and all that stuff. But the bottom line is, for me, I need to have some victories early on, and they can't be a week in coming. Not for me to start out with the best chance of success. And that's why I do recommend daily weighing and not negotiating with it and saying, okay, well, I'll do a little better today, so I'll do it tomorrow. No, do it every day. Because more often than not, I'm surprised. I may be going in thinking, I probably stayed the same or maybe gained a little, and I haven't. Now, granted, you have those unpleasant surprises. You go in thinking you're going to maintain, you gain 2. Okay, there's that surprise too, but more often than not, I find it works in another way. So getting decisive engagements won quickly, absolutely, I'm on board with this. And this section of the Waging War also advises that successful military campaigns require limiting the cost of competition and conflict. Now, I presume that he meant human life as well as, money and equipment and whatnot. But for me, how I translate that into the art of the diet, waging war, I have to limit what the food situation is going to be. I can't be starting a brand new thing that requires wholly new ingredients, new recipes, leaving some foodstuffs out, putting some foodstuffs in. I can't do my best when I'm starting with something brand new. I have to ease myself into it, and so I target certain foods like sugar and grain. And if I don't eliminate them, I definitely limit them. Like 1 piece of bread a day. Not 2, not 3, not a sandwich, 1. These little things limit the trigger foods, but also are a discipline and help me continue. Because I'm not a stranger to living without grain entirely, without sugar entirely, but after a while, I go, yeah, one day that was enough. And at one time, I did it for 6 months. So who knows, but I know that for right now, when I'm waging the war against the 3 pounds, I'm limiting my strategies to foods I know that are probably essentials, and foods that I can look forward to, but not in quantity. So I do put an editor on that and don't try something wholly new to do the 3 pounds. So I think that's it for this episode. Laying plans, waging war, from 5th BC or something. There are some clues for the art of the diet in 2019. And it's probably a bit of a stretch, but honestly, if you've done this long enough like I have and like many of you have, we really don't reinvent the wheel at the end of the day. We just roll a little differently. We stop short here, we accelerate there, we don't go down that road this time, or we go down it and we turn around. There's all sorts of variations, and the bottom line to me and what I learned this week, and I've learned it really almost regularly for 10 years. The only time I get in real trouble is when I don't pay attention. And if I pay attention weekly, weakly, I'm not going to be successful. But at least I'm paying attention, okay? That's better than no attention whatsoever. But also I know that once I reach a point and say, you know what, this is serious stuff. I'm going to treat 3 pounds like 60 and cut the nonsense and get with the program. Something sets in. It's like I suit up and I'm okay. And it doesn't become the focus of my day, but it is most definitely a part of my day. So I think I'll continue with this because I like thinking about this old problem in new ways, and hopefully you might find it challenging as well. So over and out for now, and see you next month. Go down it and we turn around. There's all sorts of variations, and the bottom line to me and what I learned this week, and I've learned it really almost regularly for 10 years, The only time I get in real trouble is when I don't pay attention. And if I pay attention weakly, WEAKLY, I'm not going to be successful. But at least I'm paying attention, okay? That's better than no attention whatsoever. But also I know that once I reach a point and say, you know what, this is serious stuff. I'm going to treat 3 pounds like 60 and cut the nonsense and get with the program. Something sets in. It's like I suit up and I'm okay. And it doesn't become the focus of my day, but it is most definitely a part of my day. So I think I'll continue with this because I like thinking about this old problem in new ways, and hopefully you might find it challenging as well. So over and out for now, and see you next month.